Within the Adirondack Hills, about 10 miles east of Ithaca, New York, lies a small cave known as the Schroeder's Cave. As much as tourists love exploring the breathtaking heights in New York City, spelunkers, on the other hand, are drawn to exploring the mysterious caverns underneath the state. The Schroeder's Cave got its name when it was first discovered in 1947. Mr. Herbert Schroeder, along with his companion George Lyon, were said to have been exploring this new discovery when Mr. Schroeder ripped his trousers. After this, the cave was jokingly named after him, and it has been known by that name ever since. When the cave was opened to the public in 1948, the Schroeder's Cave became one of the most popular caves in the state. In this video, we take you through the story of the Schroeder's Cave disaster. On Saturday, 13 February 1965, a 23-year-old scientist and spelunker from Winthrop, James Mitchell, arrived in Dolgeville. Together with his two friends, Heidi Miller and Charles Bennett, he planned to spend the day at Schroeder's Cave. Unfortunately, the day ended in a terrible disaster. In the morning, they planned to visit George Lyon to talk about the cave. George owned the land under which the cave is located. Unfortunately, he was not home at the time, so he could not warn the young cavers about the thick streams of ice-cold meltwater flowing through the caves. The group had earlier received permission from George for the expedition, and so they set off. The three started exploring the cave and wriggled through the dark, narrow passages. They crawled through different passages such as the Lemon Squeeze, Gun Barrel, and Z-Turn until they reached an open area. In the middle of this dark chamber, a vertical shaft plunged 80 feet down into another cave. A small river flowed through this shaft at a rate of about 10 gallons per minute. The temperature of the water was about -10 to -20 degrees. Heidi and Charles stayed in the chamber, while James decided to go a little lower. James had secured himself to a safety line and protected himself with a foot strap and a hip harness. As he lowered himself deeper into the shaft to reach the deeper cave, a strong waterfall flowed down. Suddenly, he stopped. James was hanging on a harness above the cave and couldn't continue. The line got stuck, trapping one of his arms. Meanwhile, a heavy torrent of ice-cold water poured over him. He tried to release the line, but there was no way the equipment could get free. When he realized he could not get free, he decided to grab the line and climb to safety, but the line was too cold and wet to grip. His companions, Heidi Miller and Charles Bennett, noticed their friend was in danger and tried to pull him up. They were only 10 feet above James, and he was about 250 feet below the surface. James remained calm despite the cold water. He kept reassuring his friends that he would be fine and that he would soon find his way out. For 45 minutes, Charles and Heidi tried to lift him up to the open chamber, but they failed to save him. Charles climbed out of the cave to get help at a nearby farm. Unfortunately, no rescue teams were nearby. From Washington, D.C., a national cave rescue team flew out on Air Force 2. Within hours, this terrible story became huge news across the country. When the rescue team finally arrived, James was already lifeless. One of the members of the National Grotto Rescue Team reported that James had been exposed to hypothermia. In his words, "The dirty part of this thing is, he didn't get hurt, just cold. Inside, it's miserably cold. You tear your clothes and you have to force your way through." For 3 days, the rescue team tried to recover the body. To give the team space, the body was lowered. The cave was mapped and drilling was done to widen the gap. The walls of the cave began to collapse, and dirt began to flow into the space. The drilling was stopped. The rescue team had worked in the cave for about 6 days with no results. They decided to blow up the cave with dynamite and then seal it as a tomb. A memorial stone was placed in the cave as a reminder of the tragic incidents of James Mitchell's death. James' death has made two things clear to cavers around the world. Every cave complex needs trained rescue teams nearby. And secondly, cold water and narrow passages or falling rocks are the biggest danger when exploring caves. It was the first time that people began to understand the risk of hypothermia in caving, says Paula Gergich-Wark, secretary of the British Caving Association. They didn't realize that when you stop moving, you stop generating lots of heat, and that's when you're most at risk. When this news was published, many young cavers were educated about the possible risks they could expect when exploring old caves. Efforts were made in several states to place cave rescue teams nearby. In the year James Mitchell died, it was common to explore caves in jeans and cotton overalls. Today, cavers usually wear a fleece undersuit with a waterproof PVC coating. More than 4 decades after this terrible accident, George Lyon's grandson Christian was determined to unravel the dreaded cave and recover the young scientist's remains. He had declared that he wanted to give the tragic story an ending. His grandfather, George Lyon, also felt that James deserved a suitable funeral after so many years. In 2006, he received the blessing of James Mitchell's family to remove the body from the abandoned grave. At that time, rescue divers were also better equipped. News quickly spread that the body would be recovered in the abandoned cave. Christian Lyon had gathered a highly qualified team who were enthusiastic about this search. The team consisted of several cavers from New York, Kentucky, Michigan, and Ohio, who volunteered and donated their time to help in this tragic case. This team was led by a cave expert from Kentucky who was familiar with the cave. Christian Lyon filmed the search process and turned it into a documentary. When the 6-member rescue team had searched for about 4 hours, James' bones were found. The bones were scattered at 75 feet on the bottom of the foot shaft. They took the remains to the mortuary at Little Falls Hospital, and the body was examined by a coroner. The remains were eventually handed over to the victim's family in Irville for cremation. The rest of the ashes were buried near the cave. It was a traumatic experience for those close to him, especially his friends who witnessed his death. Both refused to speak publicly about the accident. The Boston grotto to which the 3 belonged threatened to disband the group because of this tragic incident, but this was later resolved. James Mitchell's death brought a change in knowledge about cave exploration. Among other things, it led to the establishment of rescue teams at exploration sites in several states. It also made people better informed about the dangers in caves. After all, it is not true that you can only die in caves through broken rocks and narrow passages. In fact, ice-cold water is even more dangerous. People were not aware of this. To honor James Mitchell, his name was immortalized by the National Speleological Society with their prize for young scientists. This award rewards those who present outstanding scientific papers. The Schroeder's Pans Cave was reopened, and cavers were given the chance to explore the cave again. James Mitchell's story ensured that other cave explorers were better informed, indirectly saving lives of other cavers. Besides, it is a tragic story that is unlikely to be forgotten. If you have followed this story until here, thank you very much. If you find these stories interesting, don't hesitate to hit the like button and comment below. If you are not subscribed yet, click the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so that you will be notified when another video is posted. Until next time, take care and never lose your sense of wonder.